Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Friday, January 23rd, 2009. This morning I'd like to finish up on command line options. Yesterday we looked at the command line options that can be sent to the VM. This morning we're going to look at the ones that can be sent to the image. Now if you're sending them to the VM, they have to be command line options that come before you mention the image in the command line. Now I've got a little script here and all it really does is set some environment variables. So here I would have the virtual machine, any arguments that go to the virtual machine, then the image, and then any arguments that go to the image. So here, -PCL is a simple one. After it lists one or more parcel files, and they will load at startup. So here I have something loading. If you come over here, you'll notice that it started loading that and its prerequisites. You can see it's firing in. So that's how you fire up an image and have it auto-load a parcel when it starts up. Let's kill this image, and we'll do something a little different. You can also have a configuration file. Now, a configuration file means something like this. So I'll do conf.cnf, and we'll put into it a single line, mini-twit.pcl, same file I had before. And what you do is you put carriage return delimited list of parcels, and then what you do is you start your image. Only instead of -PCL, you say -CNF, and here I'll say conf.cnf. And it should do exactly the same thing it did before, and you'll see it's doing it. It's loading in everything it found in that configuration file in the order that it's listed there. So this is a nice way to do builds automatically when you start, say, an image on a server. This is how I start the server image that runs my blog, for instance. So let's kill that. Another interesting one is -PSP. Now I don't really have a good example for this, but -PSP would allow you to specify the parcel search path. So by default, the parcel search path is going to look at the Visual Works environment variable. Let's say you wanted it to look somewhere else. So for instance, you have a configuration set up for a server run, and you don't want it to look at the standard setup. You want it to only load from a specific place. That's how you would set the parcel search path. -ERR, so that's -ERR. That's another one, and there what you can do is specify the path and file name for an error log file. So again, say you're starting up a server image or a headless image, and you want to specify the log file that it's going to dump to. Normally you set that in the headless image class. You can override it with this command line switch. Likewise, there's a -notifier switch, and you spell that as you would think right there. And what you do is you specify the class that will handle unhandled exceptions. So again, if you have a class that you'd like to swap in at runtime, maybe you've done an update and you don't really have time or the inclination to set up a new parcel to load in and override things, you can specify right here on the command line with this switch. There's also a couple of other ones. There's also a few other ones to deal with loading code in at startup. In addition to -PCL, there's -fileIn. So I can have it file in a specific .st file. So that's -fileIn. Works exactly like -PCL. The only difference is it'll load in a .st file, or any file really, and assume that it's a .st file that it can file in. Then there's -settings. -settings is, well, let me just start up this image again. So I'll bring this image up and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. Now with settings up, you bring up the context menu over here in this tree, and you notice there's an option to save the settings. So once I had specified the settings the way I wanted them, I can save that out to an XML file, and then on the command line I can have the settings loaded in instead of having to go through and use the tool. So let's kill this image. Now there's another one, -doit, and here I'm going away from using my script because it tends to eat these double quotes. So I'm just going to go out straight to a command line that starts up the virtual machine and then sends -doit. I double quote the command, use single quotes for things like strings as I normally would, like this. Hit that, and now what we're going to be doing is firing up the base visual image. And you can see over here I have hello. So there it is, it's dumped that to the transcript just as I would expect. So let's kill the image. One other command line option of interest, -evaluate. And this one's a little different. Instead of running the command and staying up, this is going to evaluate something and drop it back out to standard out. So let's say you wanted to have an image do one thing and live in a pipe with other Unix processes. So you could have one process that fed arguments into Syncom Smalltalk, where Syncom Smalltalk would read from standard in, do some processing, and then of course it's going to dump to standard out, and some other process following on in the pipe could do the same thing. So I'm just going to type 42 here. It's going to evaluate it and drop it back out. And there you see in this console right here, it typed 42 because evaluating the number just returned the same thing. But that's pretty much it for the image level arguments. Now, you can go in and specify your own arguments as well at an application level. This isn't terribly difficult, and really it's something that I'll go over in another screencast next week. I think I wanted to go over the basic ones that you can use here, and next week I'll go over the ones that you can add yourself and how you do that. That's about it for today. Until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.